Okay, let's unpack this. When you hear the name Selena Gomez, you probably think Disney Channel, right? Or her music, her acting.
Yeah, the early stuff, definitely. Hits Wizards of Waverly Place.
And sure, those are all parts of her story. But if you really look at the scale of her career today, it's kind of astonishing.
It really is. We're talking about a genuine empire, much bigger than maybe people realize.
Exactly. It feels like it goes so far beyond those early roots.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been digging through some recent reports, some really deep analysis, actually, looking specifically at how she's managed to build this massive multi-hyphenate success story.
Right, looking at the mechanics of it.
And our mission for this deep dive, really, is to get into the nuts and bolts shared in these sources. We want to understand the key pieces of her career, see how they all fit together.
And figure out what adds up to this, remarkable level of wealth.
Yes, the wealth, but also the impact, which seems just as important in her story. We're going to try to pull out the most important nuggets from this analysis and see what really stands out for you.
And what's fascinating looking at these sources is seeing the playbook. Has someone with that kind of traditional fame
Right?
strategically flips that initial platform into lasting business power and real social influence too.
It's definitely not automatic. The analysis suggests there's a clear method here.
A very deliberate one, it seems.
Absolutely. And speaking of scale, let's maybe hit the big number first. The one that always grabs headlines. Her net worth.
Okay, yeah. The estimates.
The sources we've looked at give an estimated range, this is as of mid-2025, putting her somewhere between $700 million and $1.3 billion.
Which is a massive range, obviously.
Right.
But even at the low end, $700 million. That puts her in an incredibly elite group.
No question.
And it's interesting, the sources point out there's been a bit of a shift in the public story around this number recently. Like late last year, reports were suggesting she'd definitely cross the billion-dollar mark.
Right, I saw that too. But then a more recent Forbes report, which is highlighted in the analysis we read, did revise that estimate down a bit. And the sources specifically point to a re-evaluation of Wondermind, her mental health startup, as a key reason for that adjustment.
Which makes sense. Valuations, especially for startups, can be pretty fluid, right? Depending on funding rounds, market conditions.
Totally. But even with that revision, the main point from the sources is, well, undeniable.
Yeah, she's exceptionally wealthy.
And firmly positioned not just among the richest celebrities out there, but also, and this seems crucial in the analysis, as one of the most successful self-made female entrepreneurs.
That self-made aspect is definitely emphasized.
So, okay, let's get into the how.
Yeah.
How does someone actually reach that kind of level? The sources make it super clear. It's not really coming primarily from acting or music anymore.
No, diversification seems to be the absolute key. That's the engine driving this whole thing.
And within that engine room, there's one component that the sources say is just overwhelmingly dominant, like way out in front.
Oh yeah, rare beauty.
Rare Beauty, exactly. Her makeup brand, launched back in, what, 2020?
That's right. And there was a Bloomberg report cited in the analysis we looked at, estimating her stake, which is apparently 51%.
51% ownership.
Yeah, that stake alone contributes roughly $1.1 billion to her net worth.
1.1 billion, just from that one brand. That number just, wow, it jumped out at me from these sources.
It's staggering, isn't it? And the analysis, it doesn't just throw out the number, it really digs into the why.
Right, the brand itself.
Yeah, the sources talk about the brand's whole ethos being rooted in inclusivity, mental well-being, trying to redefine beauty standards.
Which resonates, clearly.
Hugely, and specific products get highlighted, like that viral blush, big sales drivers. But the key insight from the sources seems to be that this isn't just her face on a product, it's not just a licensing deal, she owns a controlling stake.
And that ownership structure, that's pretty unique at this scale in the beauty world, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sources mentioned she doesn't have a big corporate parent, like L'Oreal or Estee Lauder behind it.
Exactly, no big corporate partner, it's her venture.
Which must mean?
Well, it means a much bigger slice of the pie, the profits, and the value goes directly to her. The sources definitely indicate that's the case here.
Right. And it probably allows for more control, aligning it with her personal values, maybe.
That seems to be a major point in the analysis, yes. That alignment and control might be harder under a more traditional corporate setup.
Okay, but Rare Beauty, amazing as it is, didn't just appear out of thin air, right? It was built on the foundation of her existing fame.
Of course, the platform was already there.
So let's look at the other income streams mentioned. Her acting career. Now, the sources say it's a smaller percentage of total net worth now,
Compared to rare beauty, yeah.
but it's still a consistent and, important piece of the puzzle.
It's the bedrock, really. Goes all the way back to Barney and Friends, then obviously the big breakthrough with Wizards of Waverly Place.
And today, only murders in the building is a huge part of that. The sources report a pretty significant salary for that role per season,
Around $6 million per season, according to the reports cited.
which is substantial. And it's not just being in front of the camera anymore, is it?
No, the analysis really highlights her move into production. She's got executive producer credits on Only Murders,
Right.
but also on Netflix's 13 Reasons Why, which was, huge and controversial, and her HBO Max cooking show, Selena Plus Chef.
So she's shaping the content now, too, leveraging that experience.
Precisely. Using that understanding of the entertainment world she's gained over, decades in the business.
Okay, then there's the music. Can't forget that. She's had a really successful music career, global hits, albums.
Definitely a lucrative part of her history.
The sources we looked at, though, they suggest its direct contribution to her overall net worth, percentage-wise, is smaller now compared to rare beauty.
Yeah, the figures mentioned were something like maybe 5% from touring, another 2.5% or so from album and streaming sales.
In that ballpark?
So smaller slices in the context of, potential billion-dollar-plus net worth. True, but the sources also suggest the music is still really crucial. It maintains that global visibility, that connection with her fan base.
It keeps her current, drives engagement across everything else she does.
Exactly. It fuels the whole ecosystem.
And that global visibility, that connection, especially with her massive social media following, that's basically a business stream in itself, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely critical. The analysis hammers this point home. Over 400 million followers on Instagram alone. The reach is just immense.
Hard to even comprehend that number.
And that reach allows her to command these huge multi-million-dollar endorsement deals. The sources list some pretty eye-watering figures.
Like the Puma deal, reportedly $30 million.
Yeah, and Coach was reportedly $10 million, plus partnerships with massive names like Louis Vuitton, Adidas, Coca-Cola. The list goes on.
And the analysis we read tries to explain why brands are willing to pay that kind of money. It's not just the follower count, is it?
No, the sources really point to her perceived authenticity. And crucially, her willingness to be open about her health struggles, mental health included.
That vulnerability seems to connect.
It makes her, according to the analysis, a uniquely trusted and relatable figure for these brands who are trying to make a genuine connection with consumers, not just sell stuff.
That authenticity. It feels like a core asset that the sources say she leverages across the board, not just in endorsements.
Definitely. It seems to be a recurring theme in how her ventures are described.
Right, and okay, beyond those big pillars, rare beauty, acting, music, endorsements, the sources detail several other ventures and investments too. It's quite a web.
Yeah, there's July Moon Productions, her production company. That was behind 13 Reasons Why, for instance. And Wondermind, the mental health platform she co-founded with her mother.
Which we mentioned earlier regarding the net worth calculation. The analysis noted that recent revaluation, but it was valued at $100 million back in 2022.
Right, so even if the valuation fluctuates, that venture is strategically really important, isn't it? It aligns perfectly with her advocacy work.
A point the sources definitely highlight, yeah. It's all connected.
She's also dipped into consumer goods. She's a part owner and investor in Serendipity Brands ice cream.
Oh yeah, I remember reading she created her own flavor.
And since 2021, she's apparently been an investor and partner in GoPuff, that grocery delivery company that's grown so fast.
Interesting. Diversifying into tech and delivery too.
And then, almost as a final layer, the sources mention strategic real estate investments, classic wealth management stuff alongside the operating businesses.
Owning luxury homes in LA, Texas, and apparently one previously owned by Tom Petty.
That's what the reports say. So it shows a pretty well-rounded portfolio, according to this analysis.
Okay, so that paints a really detailed picture of the business side. The sheer diversification, the absolute dominance of rare beauty. But what feels particularly striking, reading through these sources,
What is that?
is how deeply intertwined all this business success seems to be with her personal journey, her health, her values. It's not presented as just, transactions. It feels integrated.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? How the sources show she doesn't shy away from that integration at all. Like, after her lupus diagnosis, the kidney transplant in 2017.
Which he was very public about.
Very, and she became this really vocal advocate for mental health awareness.
And that advocacy, it's not just something separate she does on the side. It seems built into the business structure described.
Exactly. Through Rare Beauty, she set up the Rare Impact Fund.
Right, with that huge goal, raising $100 million over 10 years for youth mental health services.
Which is incredibly ambitious. And the sources also touch on her personal commitment to well-being, mentioning things like meditation, yoga, therapy.
Taking breaks from social media, which she talks about.
Right, and all that reinforces the message coming from Rare Beauty and Wondermind. It suggests it's not just a branding exercise, but something lived. And the sources indicate that resonates powerfully with her audience.
Her personal style even gets mentioned in the analysis.
Mm-hmm.
That blend of comfort and sophistication, minimalist looks.
And how that connects back to Rare Beauty's message.
Yeah, about individuality, self-expression, moving beyond maybe unattainable beauty ideals. It feels very, authentic to the persona presented.
And the analysis also notes that despite the huge fame and all the business dealings, she reportedly keeps her inner circle quite tight.
Focusing on friends, family, health.
And making conscious efforts to avoid negativity, which again aligns with that public message of well-being that the sources emphasize.
And this focus on using her platform positively, it extends to her philanthropic work too, which seems pretty significant, according to the sources.
Yeah, she's been a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador since, 2009?
Wow, that's a long time, a long-standing commitment.
So if you connect all these dots based on the sources,
yeah,
you see this very deliberate strategy emerging.
It's not just about profit maximization.
Doesn't seem like it. It seems to be about aligning her ventures with her values, using her influence for social good. The Rare Impact Fund is maybe the most obvious example.
Yeah.
But the sources suggest many of her business partnerships also try to include charitable components, or specifically focus on mental health initiatives.
It really does paint this picture of an empire built not just on smart business moves and, leveraging fame effectively.
Although clearly there's plenty of that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But also on integrating her genuine personal experiences and values right into the core of her brand and her different ventures.
Exactly. The sources basically synthesize this narrative of transforming talent across different industries, yes, but doing it by strategically amplifying her platform.
Truth platform.
And building this empire that seems uniquely grounded in that commitment to well-being, authenticity, and social impact. It feels like a distinct model of celebrity entrepreneurship, as described here.
Yeah, it's quite a journey mapped out, from child star to this global mogul who's fundamentally, it seems, woven advocacy into her business identity.
It certainly is, based on this analysis.
So, thinking about this whole idea, integrating personal values, even personal struggles, directly into your work, into your business.
Yeah.
Here's maybe a thought for you listening to consider.
Okay.
How might Selena Gomez's model, building her empire by being so public and, authentic about her health, her mental health challenges, how might that be changing what we expect from celebrity entrepreneurs?
Good question. Is it raising the bar for authenticity?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And perhaps, how does that approach challenge or maybe influence the way you think about using your own unique experiences, your own platform, whatever size it is, for impact?
Interesting angle, making the personal impactful in a professional or public context.
Something to mull over.
Definitely.
So that was our deep dive into the sources, looking at the truly remarkable empire Selena Gomez has built. We explored the sheer scale of her estimated wealth.
It's huge range, yeah.
And maybe more importantly, how it's powered by such diverse income streams. Dominated, as the analysis clearly shows, by Rare Beauty.
The billion-dollar brand.
But also significantly supported by her ongoing work in acting, music, those massive endorsements, and various strategic investments.
A complex machine.
And all of this, as the sources reveal again and again, seems fundamentally linked to her personal journey, her really strong commitment to mental health through things like the Rare Impact Fund and her wider philanthropic efforts.
Yeah, the analysis points to a success story built on shrewd business decisions, absolutely, but combined with a very deliberate alignment with her personal values and her lived experiences.
Well, thank you for going on this deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure to unpack these things.
Until next time, stay curious.